Welcome to the Tech Report podcast, where we help businesses survive, thrive, and create value.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tech Report, the podcast that is all about helping businesses survive, thrive, and create value, especially in our trying environment today. So I'm your host, Brad Stoller. So a few years back, I remember very vividly playing basketball and thinking, I was pretty good at it, right? I thought it was pretty cool dribbling the ball between the legs, sprinting towards the basket and jumping straight up and popping a three-pointer. Then it happened. So I remember faking right, then making a sharp cut to the left, and as I did, I remember hearing a large bang. The kind of bang that sounds like somebody slams a stack of books on the gym floor behind me. So everybody in the gym stopped, and I turned around to see what had made that loud popping noise. So much to my amazement, there wasn't anybody there. And then it hit. The intense pain was suddenly unbearable, and that's when I realized that loud popping noise was actually my Achilles tendon that had just split in two, and I could no longer move my right foot up and down. So the good news, I had surgery in less than 2 hours, and the orthopedic surgeon seemed pretty happy with the job that he did. A couple months later, unfortunately, I re-ruptured the same tendon during the rehab exercises. So the surgery really didn't work like we all thought. So this time, however, I talked to my sister-in-law, who is a podiatry student, and she recommended I see a podiatrist who had worked with the Cleveland Indians. So I thought, must be pretty reputable, right? So that was quite a while ago, and it gave me a tremendous respect for podiatrists today. So thanks to my mishap, I now may be the only golf professional ever to win a paycheck while playing in a tournament in a cast and balancing on one leg. So if I hadn't ruptured my Achilles, I could never have that claim. So today our episode is really dedicated to healthcare professionals who own their own practices everywhere, especially podiatrists. And you're in a treat today, as our guest is all about helping individual practice owners build up their businesses to prosperity. And it couldn't come at a better time since the pandemic has effectively shut down almost every practice out there, at least until now. So I'm really excited to have as our guest Rem Jackson. He's the CEO and founder of Top Practices. So Rem has been guiding professionals and business leaders as a coach and a trainer for over 18 years now. And he's a fellow of the American Academy of Podiatric Practice Management and a past recipient of the AAPPM President's Award. And a special congratulations goes out to Rem for being inducted into the PM Podiatric Hall of Fame last year. So congratulations and welcome to the podcast, Rem Jackson.
Well, thank you, Brad. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here. And that's a great story, a really great story. I'm not a podiatrist. I've been working with them since 2007. And I've come to just deeply respect and admire them. If you spend any time in their offices, it's remarkable the scope of problems that come into their offices, and some of them are just really complicated and really difficult. And what they do is they give people back their mobility. They give them back their lives, and they let them become a golfer again or a basketball player. And it's noble work, and I've often said, listen, there's a guy that comes to my house every so often and puts the pesticide around because I live in Las Vegas and I don't want scorpions or tarantulas in my house.
Exactly.
But that's not the nobleness, I think, of what I see with these podiatrists. And as a side note, they're just lovely people. There's something about the person that wants to care for people's lower extremities as they are that leads just a very delightful kind of individual into it. So I've been blessed, deeply blessed to serve this group of medical professionals. And I've loved every second of it. And you mentioned the fact that I was inducted into the Podiatric Hall of Fame back in 2019. And that was especially gratifying because that was voted by podiatrists all across actually the world that participated in that voting. So I
Yeah,
just couldn't have
exactly.
been happier. I couldn't have been more thrilled with how that really went.
Yep, exactly. So, well, the good news is I learned a couple things. First of all, I learned a deep respect for podiatrists everywhere. And I've had a lot of feet problems, so I've been able to, unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, I've gotten to understand, how they do things, and they do things differently than the orthopedics.
Yeah.
And I like it a little bit better. But the other thing that I learned is um, I'm just not that good at basketball anyhow, so I don't play anymore.
Yeah.
So, well, anyways, at least I can walk today, but the
I'm
surgery,
sure you're better than I am. Trust me.
well, I don't know about that because it's been a little while. But anyways, well, Rem, you've had a wonderful career, and you've helped so many businesses, practice owners over the years. I always enjoy hearing how successful people start out and ultimately end up doing what they're doing today. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started on the path helping others to succeed.
Well, it's interesting. Growing up, my parents, it just was one of those things where I was either going to be a doctor or I was going to be a lawyer. And I wasn't very good at this or interested in the science side of things. And so it looked like I was going to be a lawyer.
Right.
And I was accepted to 5 different law schools. And then just before I finished my undergrad at Penn State University, I interned with a lawyer and hated it. Absolutely hated
Well, at
it.
least you found out quick.
I did. I thought, I don't want to do this. This is not okay with me. And I have a daughter, by the way, that's an attorney in Los Angeles. She's in entertainment law, so that's really fun. She'll say things like, "I just
I bet
finished
so.
Jackson's contract," and I'm like, "Wow, my daughter just said that." So I've been trying to get Billy Joel on the phone. So she's got a pretty cool career, and she's just made for that. But it
Right.
wasn't for me, and I ended up just working as a person that was involved in sales, product development, and marketing for quite a long time, and ended up, as many people do, sort of by happenstance, in K through 12 education and educational technology, and we really spent a number of years. There was a company called Classroom Connect, and that moved me from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, out to Los Angeles, where the company had relocated, and I ran that office, and I just loved it. And then in about after 9/11, there were some real drastic changes that occurred in technology in
Right.
school. It wasn't really prioritized as it had been. It was, and nothing wrong with that. It was just reading and testing was really kind of the rage at the time. And
Right.
so that company just sort of dissolved. It had been sold to a large British Dutch company, Reed Elsevier. And so, I really thought, well, what am I going to do here? And went back to Lancaster, worked with some friends for a while in that previous company that served the doctors and lawyers, and just over time realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. But I had figured out that there was a real need with professionals. I mean, doctors, lawyers, they're some of the most highly educated people on the planet,
Yes, they
and
are.
yet they didn't get one course in how to run a business.
Yep.
And then they go out and everybody says, you need to run a business. And so they learn to run a business from the person that offered them their first job, who never learned how to run a business.
Yep. Exactly.
And so, they're really just doing the best that they possibly can, and they really struggle. In fact, one of the biggest issues that they face is the incredible burden of electronic health records and trying to get paid with the ridiculous payer system that we have in this. It's
Yep.
absolutely a travesty how they're paid. But so they'll go home, they'll work all day treating their patients, which is what they love. That is
Oh
what they
yeah,
love.
definitely. I've picked up on that too. They do love that.
I mean, they
Yep.
love their jobs. They love their patients. And then they have to also treat the computer. And that's what just drives them crazy.
Yeah.
And so many of them go home, and instead of having a lovely evening with their family, they're working on getting caught up on their notes and doing their charts and their billing, and then somewhere along the line, they also have to think about their taxes, think about their payroll, think about
Right.
those things that Michael Kerber so beautifully addresses in his book, The E-Myth, why most
Yes.
small businesses fail and what you can do about it. And so I realized there was I had met, so I went back and I worked for a while with a company that had been left behind that didn't do the K through 12 education, but was still in Pennsylvania, and
Right.
did it for about 18 months and realized that just wasn't going to work. But I had really sorted this out. And I had met the board of trustees for the American Academy of Podiatric Practice Management, the APPM. Went down to Baltimore, which was pretty close to Lancaster, where I was at the time. Met them and thought, what a great group of people. We arranged for me to speak at one of their meetings, and I've never missed one since then. And one of them I should have. I was pretty sick, but I went anyway.
Yeah.
And when I got off the stage, somebody looked at me and said, "Can I help you?" And I'm like, "What? Do I look like I need help?" And she said, "Yes, you really do."
Yeah,
There's
you
a
do.
my room and slept the rest of the time. But ever since then, it's been an absolute joy. When I started, it was all about marketing,
Yep.
uh, because marketing is a mystery, to those that don't know how to do it. If you really understand marketing, and in top practices, we have a system we call the 4 pillars of marketing. There's only 4 places patients can come to you from: the internet, and which is increasingly wonderful, but it's not the entire game.
Right.
Medical and non-medical referral sources around your practice, and most importantly, your own patient list, the list of people that know you, like you, and trust you. Word of mouth, that still should
Right.
be your number one source. And finally, those things you might do out in the community, which we used to call advertising, we used to call that marketing. And those are the 4 pillars of marketing, and we teach our doctors how to do that. But and very successfully. What I found out was, if you load up a doctor's office with tons and tons of the patients that they want to see, and they aren't managing their practice efficiently at all, then their lives become even more miserable. They're making a lot more money, but they can't enjoy it.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
about 5 years in, I started to work with Dr. Peter Wishney, also Tina Del Buono, she's out of Sonoma County, California, and Peter's from Piscataway, New Jersey. And they're just fabulous practice management consultants. And they work with me now in top practices in what we call our Virtual Practice Management Institute. And we've been, ever since then, we've been just guiding, helping people really, grow and love their practices. And I always say that success in business is a function of marketing, management, and mindset. And, Brad, I think that's the thing that probably distinguishes top practices more than anything. We are very much about the fact that successful people all do the same things.
They
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 act
they
the
do.
same
They
way,
do.
think the same way, they react the same way. And if you can simply model that and learn to behave in the way, just on a simple day-to-day basis, as other successful people do, then that success will follow if you then just begin to do it. And that's the mastermind principle, which we've built top practices around. Napoleon Hill coined the phrase, the mastermind, in his great classic
Drink and go rich.
Think and Grow
Yep.
Rich.
Yep.
And
I've read it too.
we work together all the time.
Ex-
It's wonderful.
Exactly. Well, you had when I was doing a little bit of research on you, and and I always like to be prepared. I guess anytime I do a podcast or anything like that. But I remember one of the things that I saw. I'm not sure where it was, or whether it was your book or a podcast or just what it was, but something was. I think it was your first episode in your podcast. And as your mission each day is really, it's not about metrics or anything like that. It's really just, I want to have a good day today. And I thought, well, how simple is that? And I think I sent you a note on that. I said, I woke up that morning and, my goal today is just to have a good day. And you know what? By gosh, I did have a good day. So, but which brings me to the next thing. You wrote a book recently, Podiatry Prosperity. And I encourage everybody to get this, first of all, because I read it. Now I'm going to go back and read it again. But you mentioned the 4 pillars of marketing. It's all in there. Excellent book. I highly recommend it. But I got to be honest, before I read the book, I was really expecting more about, metrics such as the number of visits, maybe a little bit about some tips, on practice management and topics like that. But you actually go deep into the marketing side of the business as well as that mental side. And I was just wondering if you can give us an overview and why you wrote the book and the way you did.
Well, and good for you. I'm glad you read it, and thanks for the kind words about it. I've wanted to write that book for years, and finally did. And but here's the way I see this. I mean, in that book is loaded with, it's pretty dense with information. And my as I wrote that book originally, I was going to write really only about the mindset of successful people. And that's, I'm very passionate about that. So that's why there's so much of that in the book. Because listen, I can teach you how to market. I can do that. It's a formula you execute, and as long as you're diligent, it just works.
Right.
There's some management in that book, and some of those kinds of numbers and things, and really how to get organized and what have you. I can teach you that, but if you don't have that approach, that mindset, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, when that stink bomb, I say in the book, each of us gets 3 stink bombs a year. It's 3.
That's another one I liked. I love that. I love that. And you're so right on that. I never thought about that, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, we think everybody doesn't, because they're always in Tuscany tasting wine, or they're at their cabin in in the Adirondack. There's this whole illusion that I'm the only person that gets problems. But I'll tell you, some of the most successful, everybody I know has this happen. And I say we get about 3 stink bombs a year. 3 things, you get the letter and you're like, no, you got to be kidding me. Here's the audit. Or another one that's more common than you would think. My whole staff quit on the same day for a variety of different reasons. That's happened multiple times.
That might count for 2 stink bombs on that one.
He had 5 employees, and one of them came to him and said, I just got to let you know I'm pregnant and I'm going to have a baby, in about 7 months, whatever it is. And he says, oh, well, we better go tell the office manager. And they told the office manager. She said, boy, oh boy, she said, I was going to let you know, but so am I. And they went to the other medical assistant, and she said, oh boy, me too. So, I mean, luckily in that, due to human physiology, that, they had some time to plan.
Yeah.
But these things happen all the time. And I'm not talking about tragedies where you lose someone and it's a very serious tragedy. I'm talking about just the stuff of life. And so most of us think that if I follow all this coaching I'm getting from this person, I'm not going to have these problems. That's not true.
Right.
You
yeah,
always
exactly.
have problems. You just will be a lot more prepared to deal with them. In fact, Brad, you talk about the fact that we're still in the middle of this COVID-19 crisis. And it's interesting for me because we've been preaching for years how you prepare for the hurricane, how you prepare for the flood, how you prepare for the disaster. And many have listened, and they are just fine right now. But I read something that said about 58,000 medical offices are going to close.
I heard that a couple days ago myself. Yeah.
And that's because they really have no reserves and no way to deal with something like this. And so, for those that are still in practice after this, which is most people, your demand's going to be going up because they're going to need, these patients are there. They're in podiatry. I mean, the amazing thing about this is the only thing we can do currently is go out for walks, hikes, runs, or walk around our house without our shoes on. So it's boom time for podiatrists because people are injuring themselves. And
yes, my ankle's killing me right now on my walk, so I'm ready to go.
Ready to go, exactly. And that's real common. So I wrote this with getting yourself straightened out first. If you don't love your life, you don't love your practice, then everything else I teach you won't matter. You'll still be miserable.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's great. And again, I can't. I don't normally pick up books like this when I interview people, but when I read it, I thought, this is way deeper than operating a business. I can't agree with you more. I tell people the same thing is, if you don't know your why you're doing something, then why are you doing it? you're wasting your time. You find something else that you enjoy. But well, I do know that in our business, we work with podiatrists who either partner or sell their practices, and we're hearing that the reopening of the economy has it's really unleashed a huge pent-up demand for surgeries and other foot and ankle treatments. And one of our groups has a backlog of over 100 surgeries since the elective surgery restrictions was lifted in their state. So just kind of curious, do you believe that this is an isolated case, or does this really demonstrate that there is a strong overall demand for podiatric services in the upcoming months? And I know you've already talked about it a little bit, but I just wondered, for everybody listening out there, is there hope that things are going to come back and you're going to be back in business here pretty quick?
Oh yeah, when this happened in the middle of March, pretty much right around March 18th, I think is when San Francisco just closed, and then that was like a shock. And I've got
Right.
practice in San Francisco, and then all across the nation. My practices, top practices, were in practically every state, Canada, Australia, and everybody dropped like a stone, and it was very, very jarring, and a lot of panic was starting to set in with the practices. Many of them went down to 20% of their normal volume. Some
Yeah,
closed.
exactly.
Depending on where they are in the country, it's so different. If you're on Long Island, you're right there in the New York epicenter. The people closed, but they're back now. And so, what's happened since then is there was a pretty quick rebound, because just the need for podiatric services. It's one of those professions that cannot wait. And one of my doctors said last night on a webinar, I know you heard, that it's interesting. When a podiatrist is working on a patient, they've already got some social distance because they're down at their feet. And they said, with their taller patients, they're actually 6 feet away.
There we go.
Dentists who are literally hovering right over your face, and you're
Right.
breathing on each other. So, my cousin is a dentist, and he's, my dentist just this morning set me up for a cleaning in August. And so they're opening too. And I can imagine it's going to be difficult to get these appointments, hair salons and everything. But in podiatry, my doctors at this point, and the date of today is, what is today? Today's the
29th of May.
They're anywhere from 60 to 90% restored in their previous volume. And now here's the interesting part, because they've had a slower schedule. I mean, podiatrists will see a large number of patients in a day, 30 to 40 patients in a day. And one of the things we try to teach them is to have, really established, well-trained protocols that they follow, because they're so much more efficient. And when they do that, their patient results go up, and so do their profits. And what our doctors are all discovering is that their least profitable patients, the ones they typically would rather not prioritize, they're not coming in right now for the typical toenail clippings and things that the podiatrists
Right.
But they're seeing injuries, they're seeing heel pain, they're seeing ingrown toenails, which are actually a great thing for podiatrists, and they're just seeing a lot more interesting and lucrative cases. And so the big thought now is, do you really want to restore back to the previous volume you were at? Or do you just want to work in the practice that you always wanted to work in?
Exactly.
And have more time to yourself and higher profits, because you are running a business? And that's really where we're at. So the answer is yes, yes, and yes. I mean, the demand for podiatric services is only going to increase. And there's only 12,000 active licenses in the country. So there's not enough podiatrists to go around at all. Not in even a little bit. So the future is really bright. And in January this year, before any of this happened, I changed the tagline of Top Practices to the home for private practice, because private practitioners are really feeling squeezed by hospital systems and some of these large groups and whatever. Just the single doctor, or 1 to 7 doctor practices, don't feel like they have a home anymore. And I want them to know they do have a home at Top Practices, because I can tell you this, Brad, there will be more private practices next year than there were last year, because look, a lot of people that went off and worked for these hospital systems have just been told you're going to have to reduce your own pay by
Yep.
50%. And you don't get to decide that. The man across the desk, the woman across the desk makes that decision. When you have your own
Yep.
business, you get to decide that. And so it's not easy being in business for yourself, but it is rewarding.
Yep. There are some benefits. It's not always headaches and 3 stink bombs a day, that kind of thing. But so, I know when I was listening to your podcast, I know we've already talked about this, but the mindset is huge, and you go into that a lot. But and I don't know if we need to go over that again. But the question I guess I did have is, okay, mindset's one thing, and there's a lot of DPMs out there right now are thinking, well, that's nice. I feel great about myself, but my practice stinks. So what recommendations can you make to practice owners right now, with all the uncertainty out there? What should they be focusing on now that can result in an immediate cash flow increase of their business and help their patients as well? What can they be doing?
Well, it's outreach to your market. It's outreach to your existing patient base and your community. So the first thing you should do is you should make sure that you're messaging about the fact that you are open and you are here. If they're ready to come see you, you are more than ready to come see them in a safe environment, and that you're open for everything. You should be recalling your diabetic patients, recalling your orthotic patients. You should be routinely and regularly communicating and letting them know. One note, if you have your website set up so that when they go to your website, they pop-up comes up and it says COVID-19, we're doing all this, that's great. But
Right.
you need to tell them routinely and regularly, because not everybody's checking in at that time. And listen, I've been out twice. I have asthma, and I'm being very careful about all of this. So I went to I wear hearing aids, and I went to see my guy. I kind of call him Obi-Wan Kenobi. The guy's the most hearing. He's a genius. And they're finicky. And so I needed to go see him. And I finally thought, doggone it, I'm going to go. But when I went, I approached the door because I'm not allowed out of the house. My daughter, really, please, I'll give you my address. Come help me, save me, because my daughter won't let me out of the house.
Yeah.
I haven't been to a grocery store or anything because she's taking care of her dad. And
Oh, that's a
but
great
I was
daughter.
out. And so I go to the door and I go in, and I'm hoping he's wearing a mask, which his wife had made one out of a Crown Royal bag. So he's kind of funny. But I'd give him about a B- on his protective situation. And then I went to my barber because it was getting desperate for me, and I'd give her about a B- as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned about it.
Right.
I want to know that we're going to be, you're going to take care of me in all of this, and take it seriously. Your patients want to know that too. They just want to understand all of that. That's the first thing. Second thing, make sure you're getting really great 5-star reviews online. That starts in the treatment room, it starts on the phone, it starts in the reception room, but you want your patients to be raving fans. There is nothing more important than having high quality 5-star
Right.
reviews, glowing reviews. And by the way, and every once in a while, you're going to get a 1-star review because somebody you're working with the public, and none of us, you can't, there's people out there, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
but if there's 25 5-star reviews and 1-star review, it just reinforces the really good ones, because we all know that there's goofy people out there.
Yep.
And that means excellent customer service. That means really committing to your patients and doing a good job. And then when they say thank you, doctor, listen carefully. When they say thank you, you should turn that into a trigger that makes you say, I should ask them for a nice review online. And you say, well, you're welcome. That's what we do here. And I wish if I could see, if I could see patients like you all day long, I'd be a
Yep.
happy doctor. So if you've got friends that are just like you that need my help, would you send, not your grumpy friends, just you.
That's
Like,
right.
and do you ever review people online, like on Google or any of the other platforms? And if they say yes, we teach our doctors, there's a simple card to give them that shows them how to do it. And then when they check out, the person that's checking them out knows that you gave them the card and they said they would be glad to review you. And they act like they just invented their birthday or Christmas. And they're like, oh my gosh, bless your heart. And so they reinforce that. And then they say, I'll just send you an email right now with a link and it'll just make it even easier. You get about 2 out of 10 if you do that. And I'm here to tell you, and you know, a lot of digital marketing companies have systems to help you reinforce this, but it still starts with you, doctor, and thank you. Those are 2 of the most important things. Next, you better have a good website without question. And we really work with our doctors to build the relationships around them with referring offices by having a ray of sunshine individual that goes out and visits them. You can't do that right now. And so I don't know, it's going to be a month or 2 till that's going to be even acceptable. But in the meantime, we can call them, we can send notes, we can fax them, and we can communicate them and nurture them because they need your help. They need a trusted extension of their care. So really, Brad, that would be my top advice. But don't sit back because everybody else is. Everybody else is distracted. They're not communicating. You need to be out, positive. We're here. If you're ready, we're ready.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what you said is that, you know what, if you are that practice that does what you just said, Rem, I think that you have an opportunity because, as you said, everybody else is sitting back. But if you're the one who takes that initiative and reaches out, you know, that gives you a heck of a competitive advantage when things get back to normal, because they're going to remember that. Those patients are going to remember that. And you can just build up a lot of momentum right now, even if they're not necessarily coming in today, but
right on. And email your patients once a week. I know that sounds like a lot, but email them. It isn't just, you know, bunions, but
right.
If in your state you can do a testimonial, have a testimonial and share that, do that. Just send out information about what's going on in the community. Sometimes something inspirational. Try to avoid humor unless you're really vetted out with people. You know, like one thing, like the definition of a Lego, it's you know, something that you find when stepping on it in the dark or something like that. That's okay. But humor can backfire very quickly. So, but more inspirational, I think, is a great idea. So,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot today. I mean, people really need to listen to this a few times because I think they're going to get something every time they listen to it. So, and we can go on and on and on. But before we go, is there anything that you feel is very important that maybe we haven't talked about yet that you think that they should know?
Well, I think that I'm going to take it all the way back to what you mentioned in the beginning, and that is, let me tell you about my routine. Every night before I go to bed, I learned this from the great Napoleon Hill, who we've referenced. And by the way, if you don't know Napoleon Hill, go and buy his book, The Keys to Success, The 17 Principles of Personal Achievement. That's an updated version of Think and Grow Rich, which was written in the 1930s.
Right.
Keys to Success, the 17 Principles of Personal Achievement by Napoleon Hill. But in that book, you'll hear that he used to talk to his subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is a massive supercomputer that has one job, and that is to help you do what you're thinking about, which is why your thoughts are so important. So if you're always worrying and you're always fearful and you're always just ruminating, your subconscious mind says, that's what we're doing. Let's try to make that happen. And so it works on bringing into your awareness all these things. Instead, if you just work on really trying to focus on the positive and the blessings that you do have in your life and what you want to accomplish, your subconscious mind says, oh, we're doing that. Great. And then it'll start to go to work for you. Every night before I go to bed. So Napoleon Hill called his subconscious mind sub. So I do the same thing.
Yep.
And I say, sub, tonight, I want to have interesting and fun dreams. And I do not want you to wake me up at 3:00 in the morning worrying about the stuff that's bugging me. Like, it happens to everybody. We all wake up at 3 or 4 and we're like, oh man, and your mind's just racing and it's really bad at 3 in the morning. And when you wake up at 6 again, you're like, that's not that bad. Then you get your coffee and like, it's just a day. But I give my subconscious mind jobs, and I take all of those problems that I know they are, and I put them in a vault and I lock it mentally. And I tell my subconscious mind, you can go in there and work on that, please, and bring me some answers. You'd be amazed at what will happen, and how well you'll sleep. And then in the morning, I wake up and the very first thing I do is I smile. And this is a habit you should develop. Just smile. The first thing every day. And that smile is one thing and one thing only. Thank you for all the blessings that I have in my life. And instead of thinking about, oh, I got that meeting today, or this person did something and they upset me, I think I'm so lucky that my wife's laying beside me, my little dog's there, and I live in the desert where I want to live here in Las Vegas. And I'm just a lucky, lucky fellow. And I've often said the blessings, no more blessings. I can't take any more blessings right now. I can't carry them.
Yes.
And I talk to Sub and I say, Sub, today, we're just going to have a really great day. And Brad, that's my number one goal every day, is to have, this might be the last day I'm here, and I want to have a great day. Or I might have 40, 50 more years. I don't know. But I know that today's going to be my best day ever. And therefore, when the things happen, you're like, oh yeah, man, that's really bothers me, but I will not allow that to.
Exactly.
I got a higher goal, and that's to have a really great day. You might as well enjoy your life. It's the one you've got, and you might as well enjoy it. And in order to do that, I always say success is a function of three things: marketing and business, marketing, management, and mindset. And if you don't do all three, then it won't work. That's my advice.
Yep. And that's really, really good advice. Awesome. So last thing before we go, how can people get your book, Podiatry Prosperity, and where can they get more information on your program to help their practices prosper?
Just come to the website. It's toppractices.com. You can find the book there. You can find out about our mastermind group for marketing and mindset. And you can also, it's a real simple program. You just become a member. If you like it, you stay. If you don't like it, you don't. It's a small monthly fee.
Yeah, it's not that expensive. I was surprised. I was really thinking it was going to be a lot more than that.
Yeah, I wanted this to be bite size, and because I believe that, listen, I want to get married to my members. I really do. I think that change takes place incrementally over time. And if anybody says to you, oh, come to my one-day seminar and I'll change your life,
Right.
No.
Change your wallet. That's what they do.
and often you'll come away with some really good information that can be transformational. And we do events. We're doing one in Las Vegas in July 31, August 1st. That is for a very small mastermind group. And that is intended to be transformational. And those will work. But those people are going to work with us, going forward, because that's how you make these changes. And so, that's, you just come to the website and you can learn more about us there. The book's on Amazon. When you're there, you should pick up Peter Wishney's book, The Podiatry Business Solution, as well. They complement each other perfectly, because all those metrics and analytics and all the stuff in the management side is what Peter really wrote in that book.
Well, I like the idea. When I saw that book for the first time, he had the word, I can't remember the exact title here, but it said practices crossed off and wrote in business. And that is so fitting. It's not just a practice. It is a business, and you need to treat it that way. It's a message that came out loud and clear, and I thought that was really, really creative. So,
well, yeah. Listen, doctors are unintentional, accidental entrepreneurs. They did not sign up for that when they went to school, to podiatry school, and they certainly didn't sign up for the challenges that they face now. I mean, those are real. But my doctors go home and have dinner with their family, and they have the night off, and they take their weekends off, and they make the income that they want to make.
Yeah,
what else?
That's awesome.
The mission of your practice is to serve your patients, of course. The purpose of your practice is to serve you and to fund your ideal lifestyle. Why did you go through all that investment in the first place? If it wasn't to enrich the lives of you and your family, you want to be able to provide for the emotional and financial stability and security of those you love. And your practice will do that for you for years and years.
Yep, exactly. So, well, once again, a special thanks to Rem Jackson of Top Practices for his inspirations and wisdoms today. I really hope you've heard something today that can make a difference, not in the future, but as Rem would say, but to have a great day now. Did I do that, Rem? Did I do that right?
Oh,
Now, not the
very
future, not the past, but today. So
nice.
again, Rem, thanks again for being with us today.
My pleasure.